Let's just get going here. Second episode this week. Gonna do some more. We're having some fun. Lots to talk about in the hobby. And as always, this hobby gives us so much stuff to talk about. And I got a rash of messages yesterday after my news posting about Collectivus for the rest of us. Um, right after it broke with Hobby News. Check it out, guys, if you haven't. My news minute. It's a fun thing. We're gonna get into some Collectivus. Yeah, Collectivus. We're gonna get into some Collectivus, and I'm gonna talk about the Philly show because in my last episode, guys, I gave it kind of like 1 minute at the end, and I wasn't really there, and just my take on the Philly show, and I want to give it, kind of an update on that because I think it's important, right? I mean, a lot of these things kind of get buried, and you see some posts, some videos out there that kind of give a half story, tell sort of like a half of the side, and I went out and got some more information, did a little news, a little digging, but we don't have in the hobby here. Because I think the Philly show has been around for a long time. I'm pretty sure next year, 50 years. And I felt kind of like, hey, I did 1 minute in my last episode. We should do a little more. So anyway, 180th episode of the hobby with Cage for you guys. I don't know why I call out that number, but 180. It sounds pretty round number. And this episode brought to you by, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Nothing like a billboard. Arena and Bleecker right there on the same sweatshirt. Gotta love it. Arena Club, Bleecker Trading. Let's talk. What in the hell is a collectivist? Well, it's yet another example of Beckett not being able to get out of their own way. It's great that people talk about him, but for the last, I don't know how many years, anytime someone talks about Beckett, it is not in a good way. Think about that for a second. What's the last good thing someone said about Beckett? I don't even remember. Honestly. And here's a brand that just, everybody loves Dr. Beckett. The majority of the hobby are 90s collectors, 90s basketball, these collectors, the hobbyists that, we see so much content from. These are all people who love Beckett, people who were kids and collected with Beckett as the name, Beckett as the guide, literally the guide for them through the hobby. Well, Beckett themselves need a guide. What the heck's going on over there? First of all, Google Collectivus. You know what comes up? A church in Alabama. Not this company. A church. Okay. Interesting. Nothing wrong with that. It's an odd name. Collectivus. Like, are they trying to combine some words? And then there's little dashes above the top of the letters. What in the hell? Now, a name, it's just a name. When you make this press release, you're going to be able to drop all this information on people about why it's done and how it's done and what this means and blah, blah, blah. The press release was void of any real information. It's the best thing that I could say. So much so that the talking heads like me out there, so many people didn't even know what to write. I mean, Jeff Wilson wrote that they were acquired on the Sports Card Investor page, right? Beckett acquired. They weren't acquired. This is a new company. It's a new company being founded. It's an umbrella company that sits on top of their three entities. Head up by Kevin Isaacson, who, before this announcement, was the CEO of Beckett. I mean, it's the same people, right? So let's get into it, right? Take 1 minute because I want to talk about the Philly show. Guys, the best way to answer your questions, because I got a lot of DMs on what this means, right? Go to the press release, because that's not somebody's spin on it. That's normally what it means, how it's going to impact the company. That's in the press release, right? They got an infusion of cash. They got a this. They got a that. So the press release, what does it say? It just says, Collectivus Holdings is established as the umbrella company over industry leaders Beckett, Dragon Shield, that's the sleeves, and Southern Hobby Distribution, a distributor, which you might have heard of. The news coincides with recently executed lending agreements, which will revitalize the company's ability to invest in all three Collectivist brands as its growing portfolio. Okay, so new lending agreements. I guess that means they have some access to capital, and that may be the only real news in this. Maybe they have access to capital. They might have refinanced something. They might have, got new loans by establishing this new company, and they're able to maybe grab some funding. What they're doing with it, who knows? Doesn't say anything. That is literally the whole news. Then you get quotes, and the quotes are great. Kevin Isaacson, CEO of Collectivus Holdings. You guys have heard his name, right? I mean, that was the Beckett guy, right? One of many Beckett guys. But I love these quotes. We enter 2025 with an incredible team, a dedicated customer base that appreciates our 100+ year commitment to success across the Beckett, Dragon Shield, and Southern Hobby companies. Okay, 100+ years. That's when somebody says, "All right, you know what? We're starting a new company. We're grabbing Jimmy, who's got 30 years in the industry, Johnny, who's got 40 years, and Bill, who's got 30 years. Look at that, 30, 40, 30. We got 100 years in the industry. Even though the company's a day old, we got 100 years in the industry." Interesting, right? Anyway, they're all maintaining their independence, and it's rare for a brand to establish itself as the industry leader from its inception. So on day one, they're an industry. There is no news here. It's a no news until there's news. Maybe they'll come out now and say, because of these lending agreements, we have an infusion of cash and we're going to be doing this. That this will then be news. I wish I had a better answer. I went back and forth with a lot of people yesterday about, okay, well, what does it mean? And what does it mean for this? And are they changing the grading scale? And I'm like, no, it's not that kind of news. And obviously there's issues going on with the former parent company and, court cases and all kinds of, guilties and you name it. And I'm sure, if you're asking my opinion, this is probably in response to that. We got to clean up, new parent company, the whole deal. It remains to be seen. And I've said it a couple times. I mean, the place is better when Beckett's successful, but I have really little faith in, the company itself. Look at the gem rate reports. Let's look at how many cards they're grading. And, obviously, I'm not the only one who doesn't really have much faith in Beckett as a grading company. Nobody really has faith in them because they're not really getting any cards in. And that's the way the hobby shows faith in a company. You send them cards. PSA gets 1 million cards a month or more. That's how you show a company that you want to grade your cards with them. Anyway, so I touch on that just because, first of all, the name is just, what the hell is a collectivist? I mean, and when you think of a name like this, doesn't someone in the room turn around and say, guys, that's like a Seinfeld joke? Right off the bat, you're coming out here with a brand that people are going to be kind of like poking fun at right off the bat. I mean, it's not just me, right? Just look around. How many times have you seen that joke made? Every post about it has it. So anyway, I will reserve judgment on it, and we'll wait to see some actual usable, discussable news that comes out of this, right? And we'll see what happens. I personally have no more cards in Beckett slabs. None. Sold them all. Not a single card. That's it. There's Beckett. There you go, Beckett. Philly show. So, guys, you probably saw some videos, about some thefts and stuff that went on in the last Philly show. We talked about it. A lot of people sent me messages about it and the whole deal, right? And, every once in a while, it's sort of like one side of a topic. And one of the things I want to hit on here, and guys, I have a platform. I'm going to talk about it. Keep in mind where it's coming from. One, and I'll go right up front, right? One, I was not at the Philly show this past weekend. I've been there. I've been there more than once. It's not the closest thing for me. It's a few hour drive, but I've been there. It's a great show. It's a great show for someone like me who collects vintage, who loves the memorabilia, who sees the athletes, great signings, great stuff. It really is a great show in a good location. Big show. I was not there this weekend. Also, while I have set up at tables, and I set up, at shows a lot as a kid and, a few times recently, I'm not a dealer, right? So keep in mind where this is coming from. But I do want to discuss dealers now and the different types of tables and the things that are available to dealers, and almost sort of like a, I don't want to say dealer culpability, but more of a dealer responsibility, right? You know, when you're setting up at a show, what do you have to do? What do you have to be aware of? Because when you set up at a show and, you know, somebody walks off with your cards, it's very easy to come on and make a video and say, boom, theft, the Philly show, theft. Oh, look, what, nothing's going to happen. I'm screwed. All right. Maybe, and I'll probably make some enemies here. Maybe part of that is, let's take a look at what I might have been able to do differently as a dealer to try to avoid what happened here. You know what I mean? So I spoke to the folks from Philly, and what I was told was most of the theft that occurred, one person, that person was caught in the act by their security team and arrested and walked through the show in handcuffs. So we'll throw that one out there, right? His car was loaded with product he stole at the show. Large coat on, zipper pockets, one man operating alone. So I want to make sure you get that all out there. That's the deal. I mean, you know, look for those guys with the zipper pockets. Keep an eye on it. You know, that's number one, right? I will tell you what the Philly show told me is since 2023, they've tripled their security staff, which includes private, undercover, plain clothes, law enforcement, ex-military. They also use uniform security services. That's Echelon, which you see. I mean, I remember seeing those guys, including an armed guard who patrols the floor in uniform, as well as local uniformed police officers. And they also have police cars parked in front of the building the entire show. More of a deterrent, more of a show of force, more of a, hey, you know, don't do this here. They spend a lot on security. They want to show people that they're spending a lot on security. I'm sure if you had any other suggestions out there, you know, from the folks listening to this, the folks watching this, the dealers, you name it, on what else they can do to beef up security, I'm sure they are open to suggestions. But what I just told you sounds like a lot of stuff for a show to be doing. Now, you can't stop every criminal, but the one who was there stealing stuff did get caught in the act, was arrested. And here's the other fun one, right? And this is different at every show, right? But the Philly show offers stand-up, heavy-duty safes to rent, delivered there to the vendor's booth, $750 for the weekend. So the whole weekend, they bring you the safe. It's there. You got it. You want to put any of your real valuable stuff in the safe? You got it. It's there. You'd also rent the stand-up glass locking showcases from them. Protect wax, protect cases, memorabilia, you name it. I've been to a lot of shows recently, and this is obviously not from the, you know, from the Philly show specifically, but a lot of tables have, I don't want to say it's messy, right? But a lot of tables just have stuff kind of everywhere. It's not just in cases, it's cards that are out. You have a lot of boxes. You have a lot of these, I'm going to call them value boxes, right? Sometimes it's value slab boxes. Sometimes it's, you know, top loaders of cards that are $5, $10, $15, $20. I believe those are the targets for the, you know, snatch and grab type of guys. They're looking at your stuff, boom, just, you know, when you're not looking, you're, you know, they slide a handful of cards right in the baggy pocket of a coat. And that stuff adds up. If it's $5, $10 a card and you're able to grab a stack of, you know, 20, 30 cards real quick, slide them in there, you know, could be a $200, $300 grab in 2 seconds right off your table. And it's tough to track that stuff. And it sounds like nothing, but, you know, that's a sizable hit for somebody. And one of the things I want to talk about is sort of like dealer accountability. I don't know if that's the right word for it, right? But, you know, lock your valuable items up. Maybe bring an extra person with you, a helper to kind of watch. Take a look, and, you know, that way if you're doing deals, you know, the criminals are pretty savvy, right? If you're doing a deal and you're negotiating with somebody and you're, you know, grabbing your cash, a whole deal, you got these big table, 2 tables, 3 tables, somebody is watching you be otherwise, engaged by someone in a deal and very quick, just slide it right into a pocket. It sucks. It sucks that you have to deal with this, but the point I guess that I'm making is if we know that this stuff goes on, and I think everybody knows it goes on, you just watch your hobby Instagram, right? You can see that, people smash and grab, they break into stores. It's, brazen. The stuff that, that we're talking about here, we're grabbing like a stack of top loaders from a $5 bin and just fucking in a pocket. It looks a lot. If people are going to break into a store and, crash in the window and, snatch and grab and run out with thousands of dollars of product, obviously, there are people out there, criminal element, who are going to be, trying to, grab 100 here, 200 here, 300, 400 here, and just swipe it. There are little steps that can be taken to kind of, prevent it. That's the best that I can do from a show. I'm not trying to, I wasn't there. I did speak to the guys at the Philly show. They do say they have a lot of resources out there. They spend a lot of money on security, and, just wanted to get kind of, I don't want to say their side of the story, right? But I want to get some facts out there into the, into the hobby verse, because right now it's just, all right, there was some thefts there. Yeah, there were. Person was caught, arrested, walked through. They have security all over the place that, while didn't prevent the thefts from happening, ultimately this individual who was doing it did get caught doing it and was arrested. And what I would say is, if you're somebody who was a victim of that, theft, and you were at that show, you should reach out to the Philly show and coordinate your efforts with them, because they are in discussions with the detectives, with the police who were involved. And obviously you guys should work together to, see whether or not any of your stuff can be returned after the case is done. For right now, I'm sure it's evidence. That's just the way it works. But anyway, fun stuff, right? I mean, the things that, that you kind of got to talk about, right? This is just, it's one of those things, right? You don't want to, throw it out there as, let's talk about these items and make them the headlines, because people see this and they're like, I don't want to go to a show. This happens everywhere. I mean, I go shopping in the mall, and, the next day I read the story about, a snatch and grab at that mall where I was an hour after I left, people coming in and stealing watches and running out. What I would say is the reason why I reached out to the Philly show, one, I like those guys. I think they do a great job. And like I said, I think this coming year, they're in a 50th year. But because I was intrigued by the content that I saw, I even, talked about it last episode for a minute, because, I was like, oh, well, there's theft going on at the show. Let me reach out and find out what they're doing. And to hear what they're doing, it's a lot. And I wanted to make sure you guys knew that also, because, sometimes on Instagram and you name it, you only get one side. It's better to get both, right? Last piece, I did a little sneak. I'm throwing in here. I said I was only talking about 2 items. Eminent. Is that what it is? Emanate? Eminent? I don't even know what the heck it is. It looks like emanate. A lot of bounties. I saw Fanatics Live throwing bounties. If you pulled this 1-1, you get iridescence, $500. We're going to do this in the chat. We're going to do that in the chat. It's a very interesting thing, guys. 2 things for me. Number one, these are like 8x10 photographs. I think it might be autographed. This has been done before, right? Because they're not trading cards. I posted it on my story, right? So it's a workaround on the licensing issue. You're able to see the Chicago Bears on Caleb Williams on this Fanatics product because it's big. Take a look at Basketball Card Guy's page. I know he has a bunch of them on there where they did the Upper Deck, like a hard courts, where Upper Deck no longer had the license, right? But for cards, but they were able to make these like larger format, LeBron, Michael Jordan, you name it, where it's like an autograph on like what looks like a big plank of wood, right? These larger format items are a way to make something that has some characteristics of a trading card, but it's not a trading card. And Fanatics is making this and having breakers break it, and it allows them to have Caleb with that Bears on it, right? So to me, I don't want it, but you may. It's an interesting thing. The talking point for it is something I'm seeing kind of trending in our space now, and I don't want to say it's scary, right? It is the natural progression. I saw Fanatics Live post about it with sort of like, if you're there and someone hits this is what happens. And then I saw Grant from Backyard Breaks post about it for Prism Football, and it's slick. If you go to a casino and you're watching in a casino, you're watching. What does that casino want? They want to convert you from watching to playing. They want to put as many bells and whistles out there, as many ringing bells, as many like Wheel of Fortune on the slot machine, as many yelling and screaming on the craps tables and the blackjack wins and you name it. This way they convert you from a audience member to a participant. I'm seeing that be the message now, and it's being pushed by bounties. But the bounties are no longer, it used to just be, hey, if you're in here and you hit the 1 of 1, you hit a nebula, we've got $1,000 for you. Now I'm seeing bounties for people in the chat. You don't even have to be in the break, right? There's $500 of breaking credit going out to the chat. If we hit this in Prism, we're giving a pack out to someone in the chat. If we hit this, we're giving a full box to someone in the chat. We're giving breaking credit to someone in the chat. They want more people in the streams. The way to do that is to add these giveaways, it's an incentive for you to be in the chat, because if they get you in the chat, they get you in the door. The next step is to convert you to someone who is breaking, buying, and then continues to break and buy, and maybe bring more people in to also get. I can't say it's a bad idea. It's just something I noticed. Crazy Eddie used to bring people into the store with doorbusters. Car dealerships do it with we have one car, here's the VIN number that you can get for $3,000 less than a sticker, and 20 people come running in to try to get that car, and by the time they're there, the car is already sold because only one of those 20 can get it. But you know what? As long as they convert some of those other 19 to buy a car at a full price, get the people in the door. It's part of business. Anyway, a lot of fun stuff being talked about here. The hobby always provides, man. There's always something going on in the hobby. And we didn't even really talk about cards today. We talked about the show. We talked about Collectivus for the rest of us. We talked about 8x10s and why they aren't cards. We talked about gimmicks to get more people in the door. And that's just in the last couple of hours. Imagine what the next episode is going to bring. Guys, keep those DMs coming. As you can tell, they generate episodes. Today's full episode is from you asking me questions about Collectivus and my lack of ability to really even answer them. And the fact that everybody has sent me videos, summary videos, news videos from people saying, this only gave me more questions. So we talk about it. A lot of people message me about the Philly show. So we talk about it. I even went and got you some information, to the best of my abilities about the other side and what they do at the Philly show to make you feel secure at that show. And then we talk about some other stuff. I don't know, man. My brain, it just comes out. And that brain is brought to you by Bleecker Trading Arena Club. Guys, Bleecker, if you're in the city, Christmas gifts, Hanukkah gifts, get on up there. And you still got time, they can ship it to you. So head on over to their site. They got deals going on all the time. Buy some stuff for the holidays at Bleecker Trading Arena Club. I mean, they had like a Giannis, now NBA Cup winner, Giannis. They had a Giannis logo man added into the slab packs. I mean, they're throwing some interesting stuff in there. And we're having some fun. All right, guys. You'll hear from me again soon. We ramp up this stuff at the end of the year, because there's just so much hobby stuff going on in the holidays. Happy Collectivus.